Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So as you know that the third section of Ielts test is the writing section, which is divided into two different tasks, namely task 1 and task 2. In writing task 1, the test takers will have to explain a graph or a chart, and then they have to write at least around 150 words. Meanwhile, for the writing task 2, they need to write the response in at least 250 words. So in this video, we are going to talk about the task one, and then in detail, I am going to talk about few of the tips and the tricks about the writing task one. So definitely, which definitely can be helpful for you in some way or the other to boost your score for the writing. So let's talk about the writing task one. There are 4 points that we need to present in our writing task one, which are overview, then explaining the main features for the body paragraphs 1 and 2. Then later on, you need to explain the major trend, and then at last you need to give a detailed explanation. Right. In the later part of the video, definitely I will show you in detail about each and every points. So without wasting any time, let's just get started. So I think on the screen you are able to see the question, which is about the different types of transportation chosen to go to work and return from work in one European cities. And the types of transports here are bus, car, train, and subway. And these information is has been given to us for the three different years: 1960, 1980, and 2000. So definitely, initially for 2 minutes, you have to invest your crucial 2 minutes to just analyze, okay, what is happening in the graph. Let's talk about the overview. You have to note that writing task 1 will be very objective, which means you can't include any information that is not presented by the graph. In point 1, you need to explain the graph in a very general sense. Do not include percentage explanation about the increase, decrease, because they are very specific to be included in the paragraph 1. The detailed explanation will be covered in point 4, paragraph 2 and 3. So without wasting any time, let's just get started that how you are going to write your response for the graph. So you need to write the bar graph. It shows, or else it presents, it indicates, it depicts, it explains, it illustrates. Remember that all the words here actually have the same meaning. This is a paraphrasing whose aim is to help you demonstrate your vocabulary range and accuracy. If you already use the word show in the first paragraph, then do not use it again in the next paragraph. Do not use the same word over and over again because it will decrease your score. After introducing the graph, you need to paraphrase the original title. For example, here the title was different types of transportation to chosen to go to work and return from work in one European city. So you need to change here certain words with other words which have the same meaning. You need to also change the grammatical structure of the sentence. For example, various types of vehicle chosen to go to and return from work in a city of Europe. If you feel it difficult to do it at once, you can practice by doing it step by step by using paraphrase inventory. For different, you can choose various or several. For type, you can choose modes, means, or methods. For transportation, you can use vehicle, transport. For chosen, you can use used or taken. To go and return from, to commute and from work, you can use to travel and from work. And last but not the least, for in one European cities, you can choose in a city of Europe. Then for the introduction, after the introductory line, you need to explain all the main features in the graph. For example, here from the sample graph, it can be seen that there are three features that needs to be explained, namely types of transport here, percentage of users, and hence we write there are four means of transport presented in the graph, which are bus, car, subway, and train, along with the percentage of their users in 1960, 1980, and 2000. These are several words that are paraphrased here, such as describe, that now becomes present, types that now becomes means, and commuters that now becomes user. Then in the introduction only, you need to explain the main trend of the graph. Mean trend will help you to divide the paragraph 2 and 3. The trend is usually divided into two different trends to organize the data into two different clusters. The sample paragraph has two different trends, namely constant and fluctuating. Thus, we can write it as bus and car percentages were constant, in which the passengers of bus constantly decreased while car users constantly increased. The percentage of people using train and subway were both fluctuating. Then for the body paragraphs 2 and 3, you need to give detailed explanation. Like after dividing the data based on major trend, you can use the division of the data in the second and third paragraph. The second paragraph will then concern the bus and the car, which has a constant trend, while the third paragraph will concern subway and train, which is a fluctuating trend. There are several points that needs to be explained in the fourth point of writing task 1, explain, here as follows. But for the starting point, you can write it. This is where a data starts. In the sample graph, the data starts from the year of 1960. Here is how we should explain the starting point. The bus started from a higher point of around 39% in 1960. Do not write the year in the same style, because monotonous use of words and sentence such structure will decrease your score related to complexity. Paraphrase the year. For example, 1960. In the beginning of the period, in the first period, in 1960, or else you can use in the year of 1960. For 1980, you can also use in the second period, in the following year, to 20 years later, in 1980, or in the year of 1980. Then for 2000, you can write at the end of period, in the last period, in the third period, 40 years later, in 2000, or in the year of 2000. Let's talk about increase and decrease. So data always experience increase or else decrease, and it is really important that we explain the most interesting these changes as it is presented in the data. There are two ways to do this. Point achieved by the data is, for example, we could have written here bus finally reached the lowest point of approximately 15% at the end of period, right? And for the difference, you could have written here car started from the lowest point but then experienced or witnessed 29% increase. There are several words that can paraphrase the words increase and decrease, such as for increase you can use incline, level up, upgrade, experience, a growth, rise, jump, etc. For decrease you can use decline, fall, go down, degrade, etc. For stagnant you can use level off, do not undergo any change, experience little or no change. Sometimes certain data will experience a drastic change, but there are several cases in which they have slight change. This point is also necessary to explain if the change is significant. So you can use significantly, drastically, dramatically, strikingly, etc. If the change is insignificant, so you can use slightly, marginally, insignificantly, etc. There are several chances in which data will be in between two different options, like in the middle of 20 and 10. So it is more difficult for us to decide what exact figure it actually is. In this case, we should use words such as around or approximately. For example, it experienced 14% graph or growth in the following year and eventually reached its peak point of approximately 37% at the end of the period. If the data is an exact number and not an approximate, we can use several words such as represents, accounts, compromise, contributes, etc. Let's look at these examples. Bus kept degrading over years and reached the lowest point in 2000. That accounts for 15% only. Let's talk about the ending point. Ending point explains the last point achieved by a data, usually signaled by words such as finally or eventually. Let's take a look at this example. The bus started from a higher point of around 39% in 1960. The percentage of commuters taking bus experienced 12% decrease from 1980 to 2000 and finally reached the lowest percentage of around 15% at the end of the period. So we have discussed about each and everything. We have talked here about the introduction, about the body paragraphs 1 and 2, and about the general trends as well. So this is the response which looks like. The bar graph indicates various types of transports used for commuting to and from work in a city in Europe. There are four means of transport presented in the graph, along with the percentage of their users in 1960, 1980, and 2000. Bus and car percentages were constant, in which the passengers of bus constantly decreased while the car users constantly increased. The percentage of people using train and subway were both fluctuating. The percentage of car drivers started from the lowest point of all the existing figure, comprising of 9% in the year of 1960. It experienced 14% growth in the following year and eventually reached its peak of approximately 37% at the end of the period. Bus, however, had the opposite pattern, in which it started from the highest point of approximately 48% and gradually degraded and ended up contributing only 15% at the end of the period. The percentage of commuters taking train and tube underwent ups and downs, and the change from year to year was not very significant. Trains started from less than 19% in 1960 and slightly increased and almost reached 27% in 1980. However, the percentage downgraded again in 2000. Subway experienced 10% decrease but eventually climbed up and reached 26% in the year of 1980. In summary, people's preference in different modes of transportation changed over year, whether it kept decreasing, increasing, or fluctuating. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, and thank you so much.